Hello, Leominsterites. It's your state representative, Natalie Higgins, here for the June episode of Representing Leominster. And as you can see, we're still in my house. I'm hoping that you're all safe and well and healthy. And I'm really excited to have a friend from Project Bread, Jen Lemmerman, with me to talk about food insecurity, because it is one of the issues that I worry about quite a bit, and something that I'm so thankful for all of the food pantries that we have here in Leominster, between Ginny's Helping Hand, Catholic Charities, Spanish American Center, all of our churches that have been really working hard to make sure that there's still access to food. But I know from the emails that I've been getting from Project Bread that this is an issue that our communities that are facing that we've never seen before. And just trying to figure out how to safely make sure all of our community members have access to food during this really tough time. I'm so thankful to have Project Bread on to talk about the work that they're doing, about their hotline, and just share this really important resource in case you need them or any of your loved ones are need of food during this crisis and after this crisis. So Jen, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Representative Higgins. I really appreciate the opportunity to join you and, all the work that you've been doing on this issue with your constituents and at the State House.
Yeah, so tell for folks who haven't heard of Project Bread, tell me a little bit about the organization, the hotline, the work that you were doing prior to COVID and how it might have changed.
Sure. Yes, so Project Bread, we are a statewide anti-hunger advocacy organization. Many people know us through the Walk for Hunger. Lots of people who grew up in Massachusetts grew up doing the Walk for Hunger every year. We have some amazing walkers, but what that walk supports is our work to prevent and end hunger in Massachusetts. And we do that in really two tracks. The first is through access and making sure that people who need food today can access that food. And we do that through promoting and making sure that everyone who is eligible is enrolled in the federal nutrition programs like SNAP, or commonly known as food stamps, or formerly known as food stamps, the school meals that kids get when they're at school, and all of those scalable programs that are designed to help people get the nutrition that they need. And so we connect people with those. We do it through the Food Source Hotline, which is a completely free, completely confidential source for anyone in Massachusetts who needs help connecting to food resources in their community. I do have some slides, and I talk a little bit more about the hotline, and we'll give everyone a chance to write down the number, but it's available in 160 different languages, so virtually anybody can call, and as I mentioned, completely confidential. And we can screen people for SNAP, we can help them enroll, we can connect them to their nearest food pantry, any other resources in the community that they may need. We also work directly with school districts across the state to make sure that everyone who's eligible for free and reduced price meals at school are getting them, and to really increase as much as possible the participation in those programs such as breakfast at school, and some of those important nutritional resources for children. So that's sort of the direct access work that we do. And then at the same time, on a parallel track, we work through advocacy and public policy with folks like yourself to try to break down the barriers and end the systems that cause food insecurity in the first place, to try to prevent people from needing some of those resources to begin with, some of those emergency resources. So that's sort of, on our normal track is what we do. And, I think no one will be surprised to hear that in the last 3 or so months, this has ramped up incredibly. The level of food insecurity has exponentially risen in Massachusetts since the COVID crisis. And so we are working to continue to make those resources available to as many Massachusetts residents as possible. But, and I can get into this as well, there are several programs that have been passed on the federal and state levels that are designed to help people during this time. And so really connecting folks to those programs as well.
No, that's so great. And you're right, it really has taken the entire community stepping up, and I cannot begin to thank the Leominster Public Schools who have made sure all of our kids have access to breakfast and lunch through the weekend, making sure that they're covered on those holidays, all of the staff that have continued to show up every day, and make sure that those families who can't get to the pickup locations are getting that food delivered to their house.
Absolutely.
It's really, really vital.
Yeah.
So I believe you have some slides to share. So
I do, yeah. So I'm going to pull these up for folks and go over some of these resources that I mentioned. Here we go. Is that working for you?
Yeah, no, I see it.
Great. Okay, so this is pretty much what I just described to you, just a little bit about Project Bread. And as I mentioned, we're really focused on the federal nutrition programs. And the reason for that is they are scalable. So when we have a crisis like we have now, where there's suddenly a massive influx of people who need these programs, they're able to scale up and meet that need. They are federally reimbursed, so they actually bring dollars in to the state, which is very important. And then they are spent in the state, so it provides economic stimulation as well. They provide convenience and choice for people, so people can go and do their own shopping and buy the food that makes the most sense for their families. And they are proven effective. The SNAP program is the nation's most effective anti-hunger program. It's also a very provenly effective anti-poverty program, because, you know, if you can lift somebody out from food hunger, you know, that really, food is so directly connected to all the other expenses that a family has. And they're underutilized. And so that's really what we're trying to address. So just a little bit more about what we're seeing in the time of COVID-19 and why this has become such a crisis. So food insecurity in Massachusetts was already too high, and a lot of people are surprised to find out, you know, that 9% of families in Massachusetts, it's 1 in 11 households and 1 in 9 children in Massachusetts were already food insecure before this happened. But at the end of March, there was a nationwide survey of households, and in Massachusetts, 38% of households reported that they were experiencing food insecurity. And we know that the economic situation for a lot of families has only gotten worse since the end of March. And so, you know, it stands to reason that number is probably higher now. And one of the things that we're seeing with this, and I think COVID-19 has done this in a lot of our systems, is it's highlighting existing disparities in resource distribution, in the food that people are able to access. And, you know, we're seeing it in certain populations disproportionately more. So a lot of those that we're seeing are children, elders, and undocumented individuals are populations that are experiencing this rise in food insecurity more than others. Sure. And just to go over, you know, some of the reasons for this, there was, you know, the need skyrocketed immediately. It was, you know, almost overnight, we suddenly had this massive new population of underemployed people, unemployed people, and that number is actually a little bit older. And so, you know, we know that people suddenly were put in a position that they've never been in. So we had this whole population of people who had never interacted with the system and weren't sure what to know. And so, and with social distancing for how people can get food at the food pantry or at the school meal sites, you know, whether those places could be staffed with volunteers or with paid staff, you know, they were impacted in the new rules and illness and things like that. And frankly, the federal government was slow to react, and we did see through the Families First bill some relief in the form of propping up some programs, but we're already in the crisis at that point. Right. So this is, you know, really been demonstrated through our food source hotline. We had a quadruple increase in call volume. A little bit later on, I'm going to talk about a program that is available to lots of families, including families in Leominster, called Pandemic EBT.
Yeah, and all of our elementary schools and middle school students qualified for this, their families.
Yeah. Yeah, so I want to make sure that everyone knows what that is, so you know what to look for. But the Food Source Hotline is one of the partners of the Department of Transitional Assistance, which is the administrative agency that is administering that program. And so because of that, our call volume is even
Mm-hmm.
higher than that right now, because they're confused about what this program is. So hopefully I can provide some information today for some of your constituents watching as well. So before I get into that one specifically, I wanted to just give some information about the sort of menu programs that are going on right now, so people can get a sense of what might be available to them if they are experiencing food insecurity right now. So the main one I've mentioned a couple of times already is SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This is food stamps. And this provides eligible recipients with a monthly cash benefit. They get an EBT card. It works like a debit card, and you can go to the store with it and purchase food. So this one is one that we want to get as many people on as possible. It is, you know, we're seeing these massive lines at the food pantries. You see that in the news a lot. We want to get all of those people out of the pantry line and onto SNAP, and let the emergency food system, which is doing this unbelievable work right now, you know, be the emergency food system, and provide, sort of fill in those gaps. The next is the school meal sites. So this is one that, you know, kids got food. They got lunch at school, they got breakfast at school, and all of a sudden, overnight, schools were closed, and they lost this incredible nutritional resource to them. And we know that kids who live in, you know, low-income families, they get up to 50% of their calories at school, and they suddenly didn't have that anymore. So almost overnight, there were, I think, 300 meal sites set up, and then, you know, it just grew and grew, and right now there are about 1,600 meal sites across the state for free meals for kids 0 to 18, anyone can go and pick up meals. And it's being done differently in different communities. Some are grab and go, some are drive through, some are actually being delivered to bus stops. They go around to the bus stops and deliver them. But these are there to make sure that these kids are, while schools are closed, that they are able to access the food that they need. WIC, lots of people know about WIC. It provides supplemental food, referrals, nutritional education to low-income pregnant, breastfeeding, and non-breastfeeding postpartum women, and to infants and kids up to age 5. So that is one that if you call the Food Source Hotline and you think you are eligible for that resource, they can help you determine that. Pandemic EBT is the one that I mentioned earlier. So this was a program that was passed federally. It is a pandemic response program, basically. And this is something that is for every student who normally would have access to a free or reduced price meal. So like you mentioned in Leominster, elementary and middle school age kids all get it. But it's anybody who, when they go to school, would normally have gotten a free or reduced price meal. They are going to get an EBT card in the mail. If they're already on SNAP, they will just get it, that dollar value will just be added to their EBT card for SNAP. But if they're not, they're going to get a card actually in the mail. This is all happening right now. So people got a letter that had a case number. They should hold on to their letter. They use that when they have the card to activate the card. So that's just something we really want people to understand, because, you know, you get something like that in the mail that you weren't expecting. It might look like junk mail, you might toss it. And if that happens, or if you didn't save your letter with the case number or anything like that, you can contact us and we can help you walk through that process, because we want to make sure that everybody who's eligible for this program is getting it and who needs it.
And this is why I was so glad that we connected about having you on the show this month, because I know a lot of families are either seeing the new benefits on their EBT cards or getting those letters and just wondering, how do they access those food benefits?
Yes, and I want to make the point that you know, this is meant to supplement the school meal sites. So anyone who gets a pandemic EBT card, you can still go to the meal site. You can do both. So whichever way that makes the most sense for you and your family, both of those resources are available to you, and using one does not preclude you from using the other.
Yeah, I think that that's so important, that the school meal sites are still open. You should still be going and accessing that food, and are welcome to do so. And then you get this pandemic EBT in addition to, because we know that it doesn't cover your total nutritional needs.
Right, exactly. And I would just encourage everybody who, I know with all of these programs, I think a lot of people, especially if they're newly food insecure, if this isn't something they've experienced before, we often hear in the food source hotline, people say, well, somebody might need that more than me. I'm not going to use that because I feel like somebody else needs that more than I need it. I would say all of these programs are in place for people who are in that exact situation. Whether you have never experienced food insecurity before, whether it's an acute thing, a long-term thing, no matter what the callus was that brought that situation on, these programs exist for you. And I would say, I mention that particularly in the context too of the school meal sites. The school meal sites, they're encouraging everyone to come and to come use this resource. They are federally reimbursed meals. And so for every meal that goes out, the school is able to get a federal reimbursement. So, because they're still operating with full staff, and it really is something that that is available to anyone in the community ages 0 to 18. So people should feel free to use that resource.
And that we're funding this, and a lot of this money comes from the federal government, right? Like that it's not by you accessing these services doesn't mean someone else is going without. You're funding it to make sure that everyone who is entitled to it has access to it.
That's exactly right. And then just quickly, a lot of folks know about Meals on Wheels. This is for adults through home delivery, or there are congregated dining sites, although, there's with social distancing, that's not happening as much. And then of course food pantries. So when people are in an emergency situation and need to access food right away, the food pantries are there for them. I just left this in here because I wanted people to get a sense and to understand the demand that is on these programs right now, and also to make the point that if you are experiencing food insecurity, you are absolutely not alone. You can take here at how much the application for these various programs have gone up. This is only through the end of March again, but there's just been a massive increase, and there are a lot of people who need these programs right now, and that they are there for you. And so we are definitely seeing that demand rise.
And we definitely know, and the number one call that we got in the immediate aftermath of the state of emergency was unemployment. And for so many families, it took a while for their unemployment benefits to kick in, and it was really essential that they get access to these food benefits like SNAP and WIC to make sure that their families aren't struggling to figure out how they're going to put that meal on their table.
Right. And, we know that when a family is experiencing a financial hardship, whatever the reason, food is often one of the first things to go, when they have a bill that's due, or their child's medication, or, cutting their grocery bill in half. That's usually the first to go. And that's why SNAP is there, so that you don't have to do that. So I'm going to run through this fairly quickly, but I just wanted to give a sense of, how these programs have changed in response to COVID. So the meal sites, there have been lots of waivers on the federal level to make them able to operate. And we were really happy to partner with the state legislature recently, and thank you, Rep. Higgins, for your support on this. We're really working hard to make sure that these can stay open through the summer. We'll need to continue to work with the federal government on that.
Absolutely.
One important point is there's no registration or ID required, so anyone can go. There's no restrictions around immigration status or anything like that. Anyone can go. SNAP is currently working on under emergency supplemental SNAP, so everyone gets the maximum benefit. That was just extended again. So this allows people to it's a response to the financial crisis that a lot of people are experiencing.
And I think that's really important. We definitely got a lot of calls from constituents saying, wait a minute, my SNAP benefits seem to be wrong. And like, it's not wrong. It's a result of the pandemic. Please make sure that you're using it and that you understand that those are your benefits.
Definitely, yes. Pandemic EBT, I already sort of explained what this is, but one important other piece that I wanted to highlight is this is a program that is available regardless of immigration status. A lot of people are concerned about things like public charge, and which is a policy on the federal level that looks at whether somebody might be using public programs. This is not subject to public charge. Anyone can use this program. And then finally, WIC also has had several waivers in response to pandemic EBT. So they've changed a little bit about the food packages that they can get. They no longer do in-person interviews. And they also do not collect immigration status for families. So these are just some of the things that folks might be thinking about. And this is the way that some of the programs have changed in response to the current situation.
Great, thank you.
Right here is just something that folks can it's a little flow chart that folks can, I can't tell if our picture's in the way of it, so I'll try to move on.
No, I think you're good.
Great.
I can see the whole thing.
Oh, good. So people can kind of go through this flow chart to see if they should have or will be getting pandemic EBT. So, you know, take a look, answer the questions. If you came to yes, you'll be getting one, or you'll be getting a card in the mail, or you'll be getting it on your SNAP EBT card. And for some reason you have not, please reach out to Project Bread. We can figure that out with you. But if you go through this chart and think that you, or if you go through it and you think that you might qualify now because your status has changed, you can apply for SNAP. That automatically will put you in it. Or if you feel like you either don't want SNAP or might not qualify for SNAP but still should qualify for this, contact your school and sign up for free reduced price meals, and that will also get you enrolled in pandemic EBT.
Thank you.
And finally, the food source hotline, which I mentioned we'd have a slide on. So like I said, it's available in 160 languages, it's confidential, it's statewide, and this is the phone number. It's 800-645-8333. It's 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, and you can get information about all of the programs that I just mentioned. We can tell you where your nearest school meal site is, anything that you need more information about or want to be screened for, we can do for you with the food source hotline.
And for folks who need the TTY number, is 1-800-377-1292.
And that's it. So thank you so much for the opportunity to do those slides and share some of that information.
No, thank you so much, Jen, for joining me and sharing the work that you're doing with Project Bread. For Leominster families, if you have any questions about food access, if you're struggling to make sure that you have enough food for you and any of your household members, please let us know. If you have pets and you're struggling to make sure that your pets have the food that they need, we have some pretty amazing local organizations, including Sophie's Mission, who's going to make sure that your pets have the food that they need. Most of our food pantries also have pet food because we don't want any of your family members to go without right now. And we know that you're dealing with so much uncertainty, and we don't know when this is going to end. We're starting to open up. We just started phase 2A, kind of the first half of phase 2. But we're watching the numbers really closely. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns around food, around unemployment, around any other state benefit, healthcare, please reach out to us. You can always reach us at our district office, 978-227-5278. You can always email me at natalie.higgins@mahouse.gov. And please, if you have a question, I would rather you reach out to us. No question is too small. We want to make sure that you get that information as quickly as possible. Thank you to everyone who's continued to reach out over the last 3 months. We'll be back in July with a new episode talking about the census, another really important thing that is very much connected to food insecurity and making sure that we have enough resources in our economy or in our local communities. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hoping to see you in person one day soon. Jen, thank you for dealing with this technology and giving this a try. It's been an interesting last couple of months and I miss my friends at Leominster Access TV Studios who make me look so great, but so happy that they've been able to accommodate us filming these on our own from home while we're practicing safe physical distancing and continuing to get all of the information that we can get to you. So if you have any questions about food access, please use Project Bread's hotline. Please reach out to us, and we're happy to connect you with the resources. Jen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.